Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations.
All right, so Alane, I want to get down to brass tacks here. I have scaled the business. I have started defining my offerings. Everything's in place. And what it feels like I do all day long is manually send out prospecting sales emails. Is there a better way?
Yes. And most likely you probably put it off too, so that the time to do outreach for sales is probably 5% of the time during the week.
Oh, it's 9 p.m. after everybody goes to bed. Yes.
So you're scheduling those out to go out the next morning.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you're wanting more sales, you can't figure out how to get in front of your target customer and you can't seem to find the time to actually prioritize this, then this episode is definitely for you.
All right. So I think you pointed out something really great, which is this type of activity, Alane, just gets deprioritized way more than it should, maybe all the time. I'm guilty of it. I go, I need to get this stuff done for clients. I need to get this stuff done for the team. I got to do this stuff for myself. I need to take a break at some point. And then next thing I know, it's 5 p.m. and I still haven't sent out any sales emails.
Yeah, I mean, unless you love sales, which is such a small percentage of people that are just dying to keep selling and prioritize that. Most business owners can't find the time to do it, or their sales team is just kind of willy-nilly doing things because, they're answering potential client questions. They're not really spending the time hunting and finding new clients. And so what we're going to be talking about is how do you find the time and make it easy so that it's happening whether or not you found the time. So you just have to set it up, and it's an automated sales outreach. And I know like the first thing that you're probably thinking is, ooh, that feels really cringy.
Well, yes and no. I feel like maybe I'm a typical founder where I look at this and go, I know I need to do this. I know I need to make time. I start looking at the options and I get immediately overwhelmed.
Yeah. And there's software to use for this. So this goes back to, you and I's big thing about it'll be a couple $100s to pay for software that will do this versus your time or an employee's time trying to figure this all out. And everybody benefits from having the sales outreach go out. And there's ways to make it feel like it is you and it is personalized. Like I'm not telling you to go spam a bunch of people and to inundate them with sales and marketing messaging. It really is like, who would you be sending an email to get in front of? And that's who we want to target.
Yeah, I think that's a really good clarification, Alane, because we're not saying dump 10,000 leads into a system and then spam people. These are the emails that you'd be sending anyway, manually. I think a really great example of this is when we got the place in Boulder, we sent out automated emails to people around the area from me saying, hey, just showed up in the area, would like to connect with some other business owners, want to grab coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And that booked us about 40 coffee dates that I went on, which I've stopped drinking coffee since then, in case anybody's wondering. It was too much. It worked too well. But I would have to write those emails out manually, or I could set up an automation that writes those emails for me and runs while I'm doing my other work.
Yeah. And you can set a schedule so that, it could be maybe you send 3 a day or you send 20 a day. And Micah, you touched on something that is personal that people forget to do in sales. You had just moved to an area and you were wanting to meet other business professionals. That is something so part of what people want to do is make connections, right? And that's what you
Hmm.
used this automated outreach for. It wasn't about spamming them. You wanted to meet other business owners. You used that as a way to connect with people, and it worked really well. And this, not everybody's moving, not everybody's like going to make this life change, but these other personal connections can be utilized. I'm working with a company right now where the biz dev person is going to a conference in Canada. And we use that as a reason to reach out to other people in that area, in that industry that could be going. In the first day, she had 6 people respond to her and say they'd like to meet her there. 6 meetings set up before she even went.
That's
That's how, what organizations are you a part of? You're probably not connected with the people that you're already in an organization with. And so you can build on these core things you already have in common with people to build a relationship with. Tell them what you do. A lot of times we forget to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I got to see it firsthand. There's no way I could make the relationships I did moving out to this area without having that in place.
Yeah. And it's so funny that people don't want to spend the couple $100s a month with the software. And I've done so many calls where they decide not to move forward because they're like, well, it's 40 emails a day. I can send 40 emails a day. No, you can't. You just can't. And it's not a great use of your time. You could have 40 emails sent, personalized with dynamic fields, going out to those people every single day, and you can focus on other things. Not that that's not important. You're actually saying this is the most important part of my day is reaching out to these 40 people. And I'm going to prioritize it by setting up this automation sequence, following up. Most times we don't follow up with people. That could be another piece where you're building out. It's not just about the first message. You can build out a sequence of messages to automatically follow up with them. So it can be as long as you want. You can have conditioning. Yes, they clicked on something. Yes, they responded. No, they didn't do something. So I want them to receive this core messaging. So this conditioning, building a sequence of follow up, that is very, very powerful.
Yeah. So why wouldn't, if I have a sales team, why wouldn't I just be like, hey, sales team, figure this out?
Oh gosh, because they're good at selling. Most of them aren't going to be extremely technical. And you can do A/B testing where you can try different wording and know what works best. Then the sales team can utilize that. And where their time can be focused is really building a targeted list of people to put into this. And there's a lot of things when you do move to the software, like I don't want to sugarcoat things. Like there's a lot of setup up front and you need to work with either your IT person or somebody that has access to your domains, your emails. Like there is some setup to do in the beginning. But once that's done and your sales team doesn't need to be a part of that, that can be all happening on their behalf. And then setting up a few sequences, it does take some training, but man, does this work really well.
I think that's such a great point to touch on, or that you just touched on, Alane, because we think sales, oh, that goes to the sales team. But in like so many things that we help our clients with, it's this multifaceted skill set that needs to happen. Like you mentioned IT, you got to have a technical side to it. You mentioned messaging, you got to have a marketing side to it. You mentioned lead lists, you got to have the sales side to it. You
Yeah.
mentioned A/B testing, you have to have an analytics side to it. So you have all these different kind of domains that need to come together to
Yeah.
make this work. That's why a single founder struggles putting something like this together. You need that all those bits of knowledge to make it work. That's why a sales team or a sales leader can struggle putting something like this together. Now, if they're a technical marketing genius salesperson who's good at IT stuff and understands systems, well, then you got it
I
made.
mean, you're at the lottery. We'd like to hire
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But a lot of them they're not. And these systems can be built for them and then they focus on the targeted customer and getting them into the platform. So I want to touch on this piece because it is two different pieces that we're talking about in the sales outreach. One is building the sequence, and a sequence is I want them to receive this email day one, 3 days I want them to receive this follow-up, and so forth and so on. So where can you get this list of who's going to receive these sequences? And so that's the other piece where the sales team is a part of very much building this part of it. And there's a few different places. Number one is, who have they filled out a lead form for you already? Well, that's a perfect person to get into this flow. They're already interested in your services. Number two is building a list that's already going to a conference. Do you know people that are going to be going there? I think that is like the most underused way to connect with people. You're already spending all this money going there. Why aren't you reaching out and setting up meetings ahead of time and making it easy on yourself? And then the third way, which I just absolutely love, and it's perfect for a sales team, is using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And if you know who your target customer is, your sales team can hunt, build list, and put these leads directly into a tool like, and I guess we haven't mentioned, like, what are some software platforms that can be used for this automated sales outreach? My two favorites is Limlist and Apollo. And so you can import from Sales Navigator leads right into one of these software platforms and have them receive that sequence of emails directly to them.
Yeah. And these can be contacts that your sales team is already working. You can already have connections with. They might be following you. Like, it's already warm by the nature of the system.
And there are hundreds and thousands of leads sitting there that, and you can get really savvy with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you specialize in a certain software, you can look up companies that are using that software and then filter down, okay, well, who do I want to contact at that company? Who is our customer that typically makes the decision to buy? And build a list based on that.
Yeah. So I want to touch on one thing that you said earlier, Alane, that I think is super important. It's that once this system is built, then the sales team can help refine, right? So you can do the A/B testing, but it's not rebuilding the system every time.
Yeah.
You've got the system built, you've got the software set up, you've got your IT side of it all taken care of. Now it's about getting creative on the outreach, on the campaigns, on the messaging, on the subject lines, all the valuable stuff to do the prospecting, on your offers, on your offerings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of those things can now be focused on, which will generate sales and will generate leads, the lead magnets, the tools that you're providing, the courses that you're giving out, whatever it might be, that gets added to the system. Mm-hmm. Instead of, okay, we have a new campaign, now we've got to do this all over again.
Yeah. And this really is for teams of all sizes. Like, we've worked with just a single business owner where they're looking at, they're the salesperson for their company, and it might just be them and one other admin. We've worked with that size company to where they've got 10 salespeople. And what's really cool is that when you're letting your team use this as a sales tool, is you have reporting as well. So, if you have a bigger sales team, and a bigger sales team could be 2 people, because then you have data to compare, and you let them kind of play around with their own messaging and the sequencing, which I do recommend, because somebody might say something a certain way that really hits a pain point with the customer, and you see better results with their messaging. So that's the key here, is that you have reporting and data. You can look at different sequencing, different target markets, and see what's performing the best so that you can go towards that, whether that's a different customer that you've been targeting or different messaging in your sequence to the same target. And maybe one gets 10% better results, and you can start making those changes.
Yeah, I love it. So let's say I'm a founder. I've been putting off automating my sales outreach. What do I do?
Well, definitely my recommendation is either go Limlist or Apollo, set that up. And then the next thing is sign up with Sales Navigator. Again, we're looking at about $200 a month for these 2 platforms to work together. And you need to set up, I recommend for email, setting up multiple domains to send from, not your main domain. Because if you do get marked as spam, you don't want to screw yourself over and lose access to your main email. So you want to have some extra domains, and it also, you can send out more emails with when you have multiple domains. And this feels probably a little overwhelming right now. Like, oh gosh, I'm talking about multiple software platforms, setting up new domains. Like, how do I even set this up? Like, this is what we do. We help companies build out these sales workflows to set up your account so that you know how to use it and use it correctly. And our website is workdayninja.com. You can fill out one of the lead forms. You can contact us. I am very active on LinkedIn. So is Micah. So if that's where you like to do things, then please contact us there. And now that I'm on the subject of LinkedIn, I want to loop in one more piece of this, is the idea of multi-channel outreach. We're talking about sending emails, but when you pair it with another channel like LinkedIn, your response rate increases. That's 2 different touch points that you have with that client now that you didn't have before. And maybe they didn't pay attention to the email because they get so many emails and they just archived it. But then you get in front of them in LinkedIn and you sent them a connection request or a message. And now, oh, okay, now I've seen you twice. Yes, I am actually interested. Okay, I'll accept. And now you have another channel to reach out to them.
Yeah, I think we use that technique when we did the outreach around Boulder to meet with people for coffee. And I would say it's 50-50. 50% of the people responded in LinkedIn, 50% of the people responded in email. What that tells me is, had we not used that strategy, then we would have had 50% less people, give
Absolutely.
or take.
Yeah.
But
And
it would have been less for sure.
yeah. And things don't always have to be that you're trying to sell them on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first step in making a connection with somebody to build a relationship so that they know where to go when they're ready. And one of my favorite ways that I see work so well is inviting them to a webinar that you're hosting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just anything that's valuable that you could provide to build that relationship. There's one other piece to this that I thought was really interesting when we did this campaign, Alane, and we see this with our other campaigns as well, is that the time it takes people to reply. Some people can reply right away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting replies from about 5 to 6 months ago saying, hey, sorry, missed your email, missed your LinkedIn. 5 to 6 months later. And what that means is you can set these up. Things can, like, I think we forget or we get impatient. I know I do, that if it doesn't happen right away, then it's not going to happen. But the reality is, if you have your team and this outbound happening, you can still be getting results 5 months after the campaign starts or even ends. And if you have multiple campaigns during those 5 months, you're building out a pipeline of leads that are going to come in for the next 1 to 2 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, we recently had a sale come in that was in July. Our first contact with them was in January, and they received one of our automated outreaches. It was about ClickUp, Asana, and Monday. They went to a free webinar that we did in January, and we were then connected with them, and then they became a client in July. So, if we hadn't set up that automated outreach, we would have never found the time to invite them to one of our webinars. With these campaigns, you can have multiple also running at the same time. So we're getting, it's feeling more overwhelming, but it's really not. And what I like doing is setting up an evergreen campaign. So if we're not going to a conference, if there's not a webinar coming up, I always have some type of outreach happening that I can turn on when nothing else is going on. And that way it always has something to warm people up to us. And it, again, doesn't have to just be cold sales. It can be warm relationships. And that's what I like about the evergreen ones is like, hey, you know what? We don't have a lot that we want to sell on right now. Let's just make sure we're connecting with other people that are like-minded, possibly interested in what we do. And let's just send them a note to connect. And maybe that runs for just a week while we get another, sales thing put together. These can be turned on and off. And I love doing that.
It's brilliant.
So if you like the idea of anything that we're talking about and you want to set up some sales automation, we have a crawl, walk, run so that, you can get your feet wet. You don't have to do this massive outreach or setup, and we can just crawl with it and you can start to see how it works, if it's going to work for you, which it absolutely should. It works for everybody if you put in just a little bit of upfront time. So if you want to talk to us, reach out to us, workdayninja.com. I absolutely love this part of what we do.